The winter night was cruel. Cold winds lashed through the empty streets, and the bus stop sat deserted under a flickering light. But there she was, a young nurse, her uniform hidden beneath a thin, worn coat, clutching a baby wrapped in a faded blanket. Her hands trembled, not just from the chill, but from fear of what tomorrow might bring. From across the street, Daniel Hayes slowed his steps. He was the kind of man people whispered about in business magazines, a powerful CEO, wealthy beyond imagination, living in penthouses and attending glittering galas. But tonight, he wasn't in a limousine or surrounded by admirers. He had been walking alone, searching for air that money couldn't buy. And then he saw her. Her lips were blue, her eyes red from exhaustion, yet they carried a desperate determination as she rocked her child. Something inside Daniel cracked. He could have kept walking, pretended not to notice. But his feet disobeyed. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. The nurse flinched, tightening her hold on the baby. "We're fine," she whispered, though her voice betrayed the truth. Daniel noticed the hospital ID badge still pinned to her coat. "You're a nurse?" She nodded, her gaze falling. "I was, until last week. Budget cuts. No family here. No place to go. The shelter's full." Her voice broke. "I just need the bus to take us somewhere warm." Daniel glanced at the schedule taped to the post. The last bus had already gone. She hadn't realized. He hesitated only a second before the words slipped out, "Come with me." The nurse's eyes widened. "What?" "I'm not dangerous," he assured quickly. "I can't leave you here with the baby in this cold. Please, just come with me." Trust didn't come easily, especially when you had nothing left. But something about his voice, steady, almost pleading, made her rise slowly to her feet. Within minutes, she was inside his sleek black car, warmth flooding around her and the baby. The child stirred, letting out a soft cry before falling back to sleep. At his penthouse, she froze at the sight of glass walls, chandeliers, and the life of luxury she could never imagine. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Daniel smiled softly. "Neither do I, most nights." Over dinner, warm soup and bread hurriedly brought by his housekeeper, he listened. Her name was Emily. She had become a nurse to honor her late mother, a caregiver who always taught her that kindness could save lives more than medicine ever could. But after losing her job and with rent unpaid, she had been forced out of her apartment. With a newborn son, she had nowhere left to turn. Daniel felt his throat tighten. For all his success, his mansion often felt like an empty cage. His parents were long gone, and he had buried himself in work, building empires but losing every connection that mattered. He hadn't realized how lonely he was, until now, sitting across from Emily, who despite her struggles, radiated a strength he envied. Days turned into weeks. Daniel arranged temporary housing for her, helped her apply for new positions, and even hired her as a private nurse for his company's health foundation. But it wasn't pity, it was admiration. He had seen countless powerful men and women, yet none carried the quiet courage of a mother fighting for her child's future. The emotional climax came one evening when the baby, now healthier and smiling, gripped Daniel's finger with tiny hands. Daniel's heart stilled. He hadn't realized how much he craved belonging, family, love, connection. Emily watched him, tears brimming in her eyes. "You saved us," she whispered. Daniel shook his head, voice rough. "No, you saved me." In that moment, the lonely CEO and the shivering nurse weren't strangers from different worlds anymore. They were two souls who had collided by chance, proof that compassion could rewrite destinies. Months later, Emily stood on a stage as Daniel's company announced a new program funding housing and jobs for struggling single parents. The audience applauded, but Daniel's eyes were only on her. Their story wasn't one of wealth rescuing poverty. It was about kindness finding kindness in the unlikeliest places. About two broken hearts stitching themselves together in the coldest winter. And as Emily held her baby close, Daniel whispered the same words that started it all, "Come with me." But this time, it wasn't an invitation to escape the cold. It was a promise of a future. Together, this story shows how one act of compassion can transform two lives forever. It reminds us that kindness is the greatest wealth we can share, no matter where we come from.